right, whenever you're ready to go.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart. And the world would be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Another day goes by and still the children cry. Put a little love in your heart. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. And the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see, yeah. If you want the world to know, we won't let hatred grow. Put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see, yeah. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart.
Thank you, Michael and Janice and the bell tower.
It just broke,
Oh
so
no.
I can't do that.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
All right. Ding, ding,
Yeah, right.
ding.
Oh, phew. Okay.
Well,
Well, hello, everyone. Ding, 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 ding.
With that, welcome to worship.
Good morning, and welcome to our Sunday morning worship service at Theodore Parker Church, where we're always ready to improvise. My name is Beth Bauer, and I'm currently serving on the transition team and the music and worship committee. Welcome to our beloved sanctuary, where, though the pews are empty, we know that you're right here with us. Many thanks to Joel Neiditz, who's operating the Zoom camera today, and to Sarah Saperstein, who's our Zoom usher. We're still fine-tuning our audio-visual setup, so we hope you'll join us in a spirit of grace and good humor if we hit any snags. As we begin our service today, we want to acknowledge that our church was built on the ancestral, unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and the continuing harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We come together to recognize again and celebrate the gift of life for ourselves and for all the creatures with whom we share this planet. For the miracle of every breath, with wonder in our joys, and compassion in our sorrows. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs, and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates. Let us know if you'd like us to be in touch with you, and let us know how we can best welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact info. An accessibility note: we are using Zoom's auto transcription feature to offer live captions as subtitles throughout today's service. While not perfect, we hope they'll make the service more accessible. If you're on a computer and would prefer not to see the captions, look to the bottom on Zoom's menu that says Live Transcript. Click the little upward-facing arrow and select Hide Subtitle. If you missed something that was said during the service, you can also go to that menu and click Read Full Transcript. We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. As our pianist brings us into worship with Frédéric Chopin's Prelude No. 20, we bid you welcome.
Thank you, Yukiko. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be together on this, what's, at least in Boston, a surprisingly snowy day. As we delve deeper into this month's theme of widening the circle, I share these opening words from Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is nothing you need to bring with you to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship, no eternal optimism or clarity of conviction, no boundless courage or endless expertise. You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem you're turning over and over in your mind. Your bills do not need to be paid, and your checkbook can be a mess. Your children may have been up half the night, your hearing aids may not be working, and your knees may be creaking. You do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us. Where love resides in each of us and yet is somehow more than all of it. Where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Come, let us worship together. Our opening hymn this morning is a favorite for many. It's listed in our hymnal by its first few words as "This is my song." It's set to a melody that's known as Finlandia, which was written by John Sibelius. Forgive me, I should learn how to pronounce Sibelius' first name, which you might recognize as the same melody we sang last week with the lyrics, "We would be one." The lyrics that we sing this week were written by poet Lloyd Stone, and I recently learned that its full title is actually "A Song of Peace, a patriotic song." Peace as patriotic. Let's join now in singing this hymn of peace, of humanization, and of love.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
We enter into our time of worship by lighting our flaming chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We light our chalice with words of covenant, which will be spoken first in English by Diana Diggs, and then in Spanish by Miriam Hernandez, which we say in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. The words are in the chat.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y amar y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Thank you, Diana and Miriam both. I pass it over to Rose for our story for all ages today. It's one I really love.
Thank you. Our story this morning is a particularly special one called Old Turtle and the Broken Truth, written by Douglas Wood and illustrated by John J. Mouth. You may recognize some of the characters in this story from one I shared several weeks ago called The Three Questions. Here is Old Turtle and the Broken Truth. Once, in a beautiful, faraway land, there was somehow not so very far a land where every stone was a teacher, and every breeze a language, where every lake was a mirror, and every tree a ladder to the stars. Into this far and lovely land there fell a truth. It streaked down from the stars, trailing a tail as long as the sky. But as it fell, it broke. One of the pieces blazed off through the night sky, and the other fell to earth in the beautiful land. The crow, the fox, and the owl were each drawn to the truth, shiny and sparkly as it was. But one after another, they'd carry it for a while before each one of them dropped it and let it go. It didn't feel quite right, missing a piece, sharp and jagged as it was. Then a human found it. He picked up the broken truth and saw there was writing. It said, "You are loved." The man thought it was lovely and kept it, feeling proud and happy. Then the man took the wonderful truth to the people who lived with him. They cherished their newfound truth and believed in it. It became their most cherished possession. After a while, the man and his people did not hear the language of breezes and stones, but only heard their truth. They did not see the mirrored lakes or ladders to the stars, but only saw their sparkling truth. And for them, that was enough. They called it the truth. The truth made people feel good and proud and strong, but soon they began to feel fear and anger towards those who did not share their truth. The other beings and people of the lovely land seemed less and less important. Time passed, and other people said, "We must have this great truth for ourselves, for it comes with happiness and power." Many battles were fought, and the broken truth was won and lost, over and over again. The stones and trees suffered. The breezes and waters suffered. The animals But most of all, the people suffered. Until one day, a child came to find Old Turtle, who was a wise ancient creature. The child had traveled very far, had crossed the mountains of imagining and the river of wondering, and had found her way to the forest of finding. And the animals traveled with her. When they came to a great hill in the center of the world, the little girl thought she had never seen so far or seen so much beauty. When she saw Old Turtle, she simply looked with eyes of wonder. "Why have you come to see me, little one?" asked Old Turtle. I wanted to ask a question. Where I live, the earth is sore and people are suffering. People say it has always been this way and will never change. Can it change, Old Turtle? Old Turtle spoke. The world you describe is not the world that has always been. Old Turtle said that the broken truth they found was only a portion of what people needed, that there was a lost portion of the truth that people need if the world is to be made whole again. But where is the missing piece? Asked the little girl. Can we put the truth back together again? My child, there are truths all around us and within us. They twinkle in the sky and bloom on the earth. The people, clutching their one truth, forget the small and lovely truths of life and no longer see or hear these truths. But perhaps, little one, you can. I will try, said the little girl. She thought of the beauty of her long journey, the clouds and birds, the dancing light in the green and living earth. And gradually, a feeling came over her, as though the world were made of truths. She felt a secret smile somewhere deep inside. She looked at Old Turtle, her eyes more filled with wonder than before. Old Turtle spoke again. Remember this also. The broken truth will be mended only when one person meets another from a different place with a different face and sees and hears herself. Only then will the people know that every person, every being is important, and the world is made for each of us. Take this with you. As she placed something in the little girl's hand, I have saved it for a long time for someone like you. The little girl looked in her hand at a mysterious stone, lovely to touch and lovely to see. She squeezed it tightly, then tucked it away for her journey. Thank you, Old Turtle, she said, and hugged her friend's great leathery neck. Then she started home. With Crow and her animal friends, she traveled through the forest of finding out, crossed the river of wondering why, and the mountains of imagining. It took a long time, yet no time at all. And she was home. It had been a long journey, and her heart had changed. The people did not recognize her. When she spoke, they did not understand. When she told of a world made of small and gentle truths, they could not follow her words. When she explained about the broken truth and the need to make it whole, they did not believe her. Finally, Crow, seeing all, flew to the place in the high tower where the great truth was kept. He cawed, and suddenly the little girl knew what to do. She climbed to the high place herself. Taking the stone from her pocket, she carefully added the missing piece to the old, broken one. The fit was perfect. The people looked and looked. Some frowned, some smiled, some even laughed, and some cried. The truth stone now said, "You are loved, and so are they." And the people began to understand. Time passed, and slowly, as the people met each other, met other people different from themselves, they began to see themselves. And far away on a hill in the very center of the world, Old Turtle smiled.
Thank you, Rose, for that story. What better punchline than "you are loved and so are they"? It transitions us really nicely into our centering hymn this morning, which is Building Bridges. It's a meditative round that also has its roots as a protest song. Building Bridges comes to us from the Greenham Common Women's Peace Camp, a 1982 protest set up outside the Royal Air Force Base to protect against US nuclear weapons on British common land. And since it is a round, we'll sing it together once, and then Michael and I will do it as a round. You can sing with Michael, you can sing with me, and you can add a third or fourth part, whatever calls to you. So I invite you to join us in singing.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
I invite you to join me now in a time of meditation or prayer, first in words, then in silence, then in melody. Our prayer today is adapted from Judith Quarles. Spirit of life, we feel you moving amongst us here. Bless us with your presence. For we are in need of strength and courage. Our road is filled with rocks, with boulders strewn, boulders so high we sometimes wonder whether we can climb them. We are in need of comfort and encouragement. We long for a cooling hand upon the forehead, your still voice whispering in our hearts, "It's all right now." We are in need of cheerleading when we see what is to be done. A moment. When we see what is to be done for others, for our lovely earth, we would hear your voice shouting at us to get moving. As we sit here and here, gathered in this lovely, loving community. Sorry. Let us realize that this spirit of encouragement, comfort, and love is within ourselves, within this congregation. We are the instruments of the good that abounds. May we feel the Spirit and carry it with us all of our days. Let us now, in the holy quiet, listen for the voice of love within our hearts.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. My husband Mark and I give to Theodore Parker Church out of gratitude and appreciation for this caring community and our shared covenant of love and justice for all. As Yukiko shares with us Chopin's hauntingly beautiful piece, Nocturne number 20 in C-sharp minor, an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope, will be gratefully received. Thank you. Empathy isn't just something that happens to us, a meteor shower of synapses firing across the brain. It's also a choice we make to pay attention, to extend ourselves. It's made of exertion, that dowdier cousin of impulse. Sometimes we care for another because we know we should, or because it's asked for, but this doesn't make our caring hollow. The act of choosing simply means we've committed ourselves to a set of behaviors greater than the sum of our individual inclinations. This confession of effort chafes against the notion that empathy should always rise unbidden, that genuine means the same thing as unwilled, that intentionality is the enemy of love. But I believe in intention, and I believe in work. I believe in waking up in the middle of the night and packing our bags and leaving our worst selves for our better ones.
Valerie Kaur was a young girl who lived in California, who loved writing poetry and riding on tractors. She had 2 long braids and warm brown skin. The first time she was ever bullied for the color of her skin, for not being a Christian, she ran to her grandfather in tears. Valerie's family is Sikh, S-I-K-H, and her grandfather had a long beard and covered his hair with a turban. As she sniffled and snuggled against him, her grandfather asked her to breathe with him and chant his favorite Sikh teaching together 3 times. The hot winds cannot touch you. You are protected by love. As Valerie calmed, her grandfather gave her the teaching of Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh faith. "I see no stranger," said Nanak. "I see no enemy." Her grandfather taught her that she could choose to see all of the faces that she meets and wonder about them. "And if I wonder about them," she later said, "I will listen to their stories even when it's hard. I will refuse to hate them even when they hate me. I will even vow to protect them when they are in harm's way." I see no stranger. I see no enemy. That's a big teaching for a little girl. It's a big teaching for any of us. We see this spiritual teaching to love beyond the boundaries of our own dear ones across so many of our world's religious traditions. From Buddha teaching unending compassion, to the Jewish and Christian commandments to love your neighbor as yourself, to Muhammad's instruction to do good not just to your family, but to the orphan, the needy, and to the stranger. These all urge us to expand the circle of who we consider one of us, and therefore who is worthy of our love and care and concern. And look, it is totally natural and biologically built into us to see the world in terms of us and them. Neuroscience tells us that our brains are primed to react that way. In the instant that we see a face, our unconscious mind decides if the other person is one of us. Our bodies release hormones that guide us to trust the ones who are like us and resent ones who are different. It was a survival strategy. We wouldn't need so many ancient teachings about loving beyond boundaries if it came effortlessly. But the good news is that we can grow and change our brains, even as adults. Thank goodness. We can rewire our neural pathways with conscious practice, with a conscious choice to see no enemy, to see no stranger. When have been the times when it felt easy for you to extend love and care to someone unlike yourself, someone you might even consider your opponent? And when has it been hard? Speaking for myself, of all of Unitarian Universalism's principles, I struggle most consistently with the first one, living it out. Theologically and on paper, I absolutely agree that each person has inherent worth and dignity. I find it easy to love people unless and until they start saying or posting online or doing things that I fundamentally disagree with. Then my honest first reaction is to write them off, to disagree and go back to surrounding myself with people who are generally like-minded. Has anyone else ever had that experience? The starkest example that I can share was my experience last January and this January seeing replays, watching the violent mobs storm the Capitol. A year later, when I think about it or see that footage or hear a news report about the investigations, I'm still shocked and scared and just outraged. When people are loudly, angrily shouting horrible things, harming or threatening harm to others, I really want to avert my eyes and tune out and disengage. I don't know if you remember or saw one of the particular rioters who was wearing the appalling sweatshirt that said Camp Auschwitz staff. But I'll say, as a Jewish person seeing that, my first instinct is not to affirm his worth and dignity. I hear calls for unity, and I think, I don't want unity with that guy. Here's the kicker. I was talking with a minister friend of mine just a few weeks after the mob, and she said, "Oh, did you see that guy at the Capitol wearing the Camp Auschwitz staff shirt? Yeah, he lives in the house behind my dad." It shook me. Somehow, knowing where this guy lives made him exist in 3 dimensions for me. And if I'm seeing him as a real person, it calls me to start to wonder about all of the other hundreds of people who stormed the Capitol. I suddenly start thinking, who are these people's neighbors? What have their lives been like such that they took these actions? What does it mean for me to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, including that guy? First, I would say that inherent worth and dignity does not excuse harmful, bad behavior. It's instead a fundamental belief that we are all born good, that we are all born worthy of care and respect. A belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person actually calls us to accountability when we do something oppressive or harmful, because every person includes both those harming and those being harmed. So rather, affirming someone's inherent worth and dignity is more about a conscious choice to practice empathy, like our reading from Leslie Jameson. After leaving a life of extreme gang violence, a man named Sammy Rangel, excuse me. Sammy Ringel has dedicated his life to supporting others, leaving the violent far right. Part of this work of helping people out of extremist groups involves listening to really hard, hateful things from folks who haven't yet left those groups with empathy. Sammy describes his organization's approach to listening for this person's story with compassion this way. He says, "It's not that we agree with anything that comes out of the far right. It's that we don't ever forget that there are people inside of those people. There's a human being inside of this person. We can start there. When facing someone whose words or behaviors we're really struggling with, we can start by just simply remembering that there is a person inside of this person. They're not a demon or a monster, but a fellow human being. And then we can hear the call from Valerie Kaur's grandfather. I see no stranger. I see no enemy. So how do we do that? Valerie writes, seeing no stranger begins in wonder. It is to look upon the face of anyone and choose to say, you are a part of me that I do not yet know. Wonder is the wellspring for love. Valerie continues, who we wonder about determines whose stories we hear and whose joy and pain we share. Wondering like this, it's a practice. And the more we do it, the more we shift away from our unconscious biases and make new connections in our brains that expand our circles of trust. In order to love others, Valerie says, see no stranger. We can train our eyes to look upon strangers on the screen or on the street and say in our minds, brother, sister, sibling, auntie. And when we say this, what we're saying is, you are a part of me that I do not yet know. I choose to wonder about you. I will listen for your stories and protect you when you are in harm's way. Lest I lead you to think that you need to start this practice with someone as challenging as the neo-Nazi, no, don't start there. There is a lot of rage and grief and processing that would need to happen before getting to a point where one could engage on that level. So let's start small. Let me share a personal story of a smaller act of wondering, much smaller. At a former non-ministry job, I once had a supervisor who really irritated me, and some of the other staff as well. We'd complain amongst ourselves that this person was a micromanager, that they judged us harshly, and that they really, really liked to be right. While I was away from that retail job at a seminar, I participated in a forgiveness meditation. And they asked us to think of someone that we had a grudge against, or someone who annoyed us. And they invited us to wonder about them. As I was led through this exercise of wondering about them, I was able to think back through my interactions with my boss and the things that I had heard them say. I realized, man, they really are so hard on themselves, always beating themselves up for tiny mistakes. I even remember them telling me that the reason they worked so hard was because they were afraid of looking foolish. They really are having a pretty tough time of it. And as I thought about them a little bit more, I realized, they really do have a great sense of humor, and they can be so playful. I would love to be jokey and silly and playful with them. When I stopped characterizing this person solely by my own irritation, I showed up differently in our interactions too. Less cranky, more playful, more curious. When they expressed high standards, I acknowledged how important the work was to them. It became a positive feedback loop. I'd show up differently, and then so would they. And eventually, we became pretty good friends. There is always a person inside of the person in front of you. A person with inherent worth and dignity about whom we can choose to wonder. In order to love our opponents, we recognize that they are human beings who carry their own wounds. Valerie invites us to tend the wounds, asking, can you see the wound in the ones who hurt you? Can you even just wonder about them? Beloveds, I invite you now to just bring to mind what's going on in your world, in our world. Just bring it to mind for a moment. The suffering, the challenge, especially these past few years. Just notice the grief or whatever is coming up for you about it. Just breathe with me for a moment. The hot winds cannot touch you. You are protected by love. In order to love others, in order to see the inherent worth and dignity in each person, see no stranger. See the faces around you and think, you are a part of me that I do not yet know. I choose to wonder about you. I will listen for your stories and protect you when you are in harm's way. So may it be, and amen. We lift our voices in song one more time with the African American spiritual, There Is More Love Somewhere. This song expresses such a powerful yearning and determination, all the more powerful when we think about generations of enslaved people singing this as an act of spiritual resistance, as an act of claiming love as their birthright. There is more love, more peace, more joy somewhere, and we're going to keep on till we find it. Let's raise our voices together now.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I find it, there is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Thank you, Michael. Following our postlude, which will be Chopin's Etude, Opus number 25, number 1, in A-flat major, we'll have a brief time of announcements and invitations, and then a time for sharing our joys and our sorrows in community. And for our closing words today, you might want to put your screen on gallery view, if it's not already, so that we can see each other. I'll put you right up here. And I invite you to put your hands out to the side of your screens, touching the hands of those around you, sending out love to those on either side of you and those on either side of them, and feel it coming back to you. Our words are adapted from Reverend Erica Hewitt. The hands outstretched toward yours belong to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, and whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand outstretched to yours belongs to a person who is seeking wholeness and who trusts that you are doing the same. As we leave this sacred gathering, may our hearts remain open, may our voices stay strong, and may our hands remain outstretched. So may it be. Thank you, Yukiko. Have just a few announcements and invitations. First is this is the second week in our Ticket to Safety campaign in support of Renewal House. You get to see how the seats are filling up on this bus that we have here. Teddy is watching over it. Each dot on there you may or may not be able to see as we zoom in represents a donation of $25 that someone has contributed. I hear we've raised more than $2,000 already for Renewal House, which is amazing. If you'd like to contribute toward our campaign as we hope to fill these symbolic buses up, you can go to the TPC website at tparkerchurch.org or check the e-news and TPC Talks mailing list for links. You can also ask Susan Karen if you have any questions. The other invitation I have is that assuming the COVID numbers behave nicely, we should be able, we hope, to have in-person seating at next Sunday's service. I apologize that the link that went out in e-news may not have worked. I'm going to post a link in the chat here that should work. I think I've changed the settings. Oh, that's the Zoom link. We'll paste a link in the chat in just a moment that will be the right one. But if you would like to come and join in the pews, we'll have seating for up to 50 folks, so there's should be plenty of room here. We will encourage high filtration masks if you're coming. There should be potentially in-person RE that Sunday as well. So if you are a parent or guardian of a young person who would like to come to RE Chat with Rose, we know it's the beginning of February break for schools, so we'll see who's able to come, and we'd love to see you. The service will be fully broadcast on Zoom as well, so you should still have a robust experience from home. That's really important to us. I believe those are all the announcements. My Zoom has been logging in and out a little bit, so I'm hoping we'll be able to see you well here. One moment. Just in case. No, I got it. Sure. Yeah, if you would, because mine is not. Whenever we gather, we know that some of us come with heavy hearts, and we open our hearts to you.